We're going to talk about fractional leadership today, and I have a presentation to share with you. So a little bit about me. My background is 20 years now in executive roles in retailers such as Ralph Lauren, Sephora, the LVMH family, and I started my company a couple of years ago, Highland Valley Digital, and we are a fractional executive agency. And the name comes from, I'm sure you can guess, I am not Californian. I am in fact Scottish, but I do live in California in Silicon Valley. So I am the Highlander in the Valley, and that's how you'll remember me. So I am super excited to share this with you today. I love doing this. I get to work with amazing people every single day, and I'm happy to help by sharing some of this information with you. Alrighty, here we go. So feel free to ask questions as we go along, put them in the chat. I'm happy to field all your questions also at the end. So today we are going to explore fractional executive leadership for your business. This is our agenda. So we're going to talk about what is the role of a fractional executive, differences between the roles, because I'm sure you guys all have heard of different roles like contractors and freelancers and wonder what's the difference. I'm also going to give a sense check to say why might you need a fractional executive, some of the key benefits of hiring a fractional executive. I am going to give you the insight on, what does that budget usually look like, at least here in the US, and some best practices for hiring, and also a little process, because part of what I do is an operational side of work as well. So I like to share some process for people. So fractional executive is a highly experienced professional who works part-time or on an interim project basis to fulfill a specific leadership role in an organization. The executive leads your strategy, systems, team, is your confidant, trusted advisor, and responsible for delivering your business outcomes. Now, that can be any role. That can be a CMO, a COO, a CTO, a CRO for revenue. I've saw CGO for growth. I now see CPO for product. So there is quite a lot of roles, and they are all slightly different, but they can be necessary if you want to grow your business very quickly. Some of the differences in the roles that commonly I get asked about is, what is a fractional versus a consultant? So I put this together. This is also on my website, and this kind of explains it a little bit. A fractional executive reports to the CEO of a company. This person will bring strategy, resources, can bring the team together, can also help hire, and tools, and usually processes. Typically, a fractional will work 1 to 2 days a week, and it's about 10 to 20 hours roughly. Most fractionals work on a 6-month or longer basis, but sometimes it can be a full-time interim role for a short period of time. So think about maybe, the CEO has lost their marketing leader and they need a backup for a period of time while they search. Sometimes they will hire a fractional. Fractionals are paid on retainer. They're not typically hourly based. They can also be payroll because they are regular employees. They're there every 2 weeks, so they can be paid monthly, weekly, or bi-weekly. The difference between a fractional executive and a consultant is you will know of consultants in the past, and probably where you work is they will report to an executive leader, but not always the CEO. Often that's leadership level further down. They're usually hired for a specific project. Come and assess the status of this business unit, give me recommendations. Many consultants are part of an agency, and they have a team of the consultancy team, and then they have the actual execution team that they hand off to after they give the recommendations. So those are mostly hired for a specific task. And then when that task is done, they move off. So they're not really going to stick around for too long. And they are paid usually on a project basis. A contractor usually reports to either an executive or a manager. So I'm sure you've all hired contractors in the past, and you hire them for a specific project. They are not expected usually to lead strategy, teams, processes, or tools. They're execution usually only. They're almost always full-time, and they're usually for a fixed period of time, 3, 6 months, or until a project. They are paid hourly, and they often also have a time and a half rate or double time rate for overtime. And they are always paid as a business expense. Then you have the freelancer that usually reports to a manager. Doesn't ever report to a CEO, so you kind of get the concept of the different tiers. And these are hired for a specific task and a specific skill set. So think a freelance graphic designer, maybe a copywriter, maybe a developer. And this can be on any timeline, but most common, again, it's short term as needed. And they are paid hourly with overtime, can often be a small business 1099, and they are paid as a business expense. So why might you need a fractional? So this is something I share with my CEOs when I chat with them at the outset and say, if you can answer yes to any of these questions, then likely you have an opportunity to hire and a need to hire a fractional. Many CEOs I work with feel completely overwhelmed with the responsibility they have to grow their business from zero to multi-million dollars. And they're covering everything. They are the jack of all trades, and that covers the first two. Many are looking for a clear strategy, and that strategy can be a sales strategy, a marketing strategy, an HR and DEI strategy. It can be any kind of strategy that they don't have, and they don't personally have the experience to do it themselves. They need funding is something that many of my companies and clients are looking for. And they're looking for everything from pitch decks to promotional, to seed funds, to professional support. And what they're looking for is a leader to help them with those C-level conversations, with those VC-level conversations, with those private equity conversations, who has been in that role as an executive that can add a layer of credibility and experience to their team while that engagement is in place. Most people are looking for someone to be passionate. And we'll get into a little bit more about, you know, the roles and different types of Cs and what people are passionate about. If a CEO is passionate about sales, their target could be a CRO, because they need someone equally as passionate about sales. If their CEO is passionate about delivery to a client for a SaaS solution or a professional services solution, they may be looking for a COO to optimize their operation, who's passionate about that. So that passion is really important when connecting with your fractional. Often people need C-level experience. So many of the startups I've worked with, the owners and founders are technical people. They're product guys, they're developers, they're engineers. They are potentially selling a solution into an enterprise retailer or enterprise technology company, but they don't have the experience to work through those professional tiers, ranks at enterprise to actually get in the door. So they could be looking for someone with that level of experience. One of the key things that people look for a fractional is a network. So we do bring a bunch of resources with us. We also have a bunch of partners. Long-term fractionals have a whole other C-suite of partner fractionals. So if an M has an O and a T and a P, that's kind of how it all works. People do use their network and they refer people they trust. So you get validated resources versus someone pulling out for a job description and saying, hey, this is what we've got. You actually get a network of trusted resources. In that network, some of us, not all of us, but some of us have access to funders, VCs, private equity, angels, because they are often people who refer clients to us. So we in turn refer our clients back to them for consideration when they have investment rounds open. So it works very well to network with your fractional executives. The CEOs need to be open to delegating and receiving honest feedback. So as a Scotswoman, I am very direct and honest. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, candidly. But I am always honest. And I feel that's just the best way to go. So if as a CEO, you're open to that honest feedback and you want someone to say, yeah, you know what, I wouldn't have done it this way, here's a better way, that's great, because then you're very much open to a fractional executive. When you look at your budget, you may think, gosh, I really need a COO or a CMO or a CTO, but I just cannot afford a C-level. I just don't have it in my budget. A fractional is literally that. It is a fractional executive. You get the expertise, fraction of the time, fraction of the cost, but very impactful. And in some cases, some fractional leaders, they can actually do more than one thing. So they may be a CMO and a COO, such as I am. They may be a CSO or RO and a CMO, so sales and marketing. So if you can actually find a multi-fractional fractional leader, you kind of get 2 for 1. So there are a good few of us out there and a lot in our networks. And those are the types of things to ask if you're thinking about a fractional. There are many, many more questions to ask, but these are good ones to set your baseline. So some of the key benefits of having a fractional executive is immediate impact. So when you think about hiring a regular full-time employee, sure, they'll assess things and they'll build things, but they have a job with you and it's, you know, they're there for a lifetime sort of thing. So things will happen as they happen. In the world of fractional, we have to come in, assess, and make an impact right away. So we just deal with it. So within 30 days of hiring a fractional executive, you will always have a plan. Always. There are no exceptions. You always have a plan. And many times you'll have a plan, recommendations, resources, referrals, and so much more. We have a strategic focus. So we're thinking about strategically what is the right decision for your company. So are you thinking about, are you a shoe manufacturer, for instance, and you are thinking, I'm going to sell directly to the consumer? Well, we may come in and say, okay, well, how about retail? How about weddings? How about, you know, partnerships? How about white labeling your shoes that could work with a brand? You know, we will really think strategically about other ways you can market your business, sell your business. We offer scalability, so we can adapt our engagement. So if you hire someone who is maybe 1 day a week and they need to do more because you're launching a product, they can often scale up to 1.5 days or 2 days. And some of them will go as far as 3 days. Some of them will switch into interim. Depends on the role, depends on the ask. We offer mentorship and coaching, so we can mentor our C-suite, we can mentor your leaders, and often coach your team to do things a little differently to fit with your new ideas and strategies. We have an access to networks, which I mentioned before. We have big networks in terms of resources, partners, vendors, you kind of name it, we usually have it there. We're very results driven. So if you come to us and say, I need to get 10% more sales in the next 6 months, that's our focus. If you come to us and say, I need to have a LinkedIn profile that gives me more followers than competition A, that's our focus. If you need to say, I need to get 3 tools in place to be able to deliver for this client, that's our focus. We're financially efficient because you're not paying for a C-suite executive with bonuses and all of that stuff. You actually just pay on the booked time. And we usually have specialized expertise. So you will find people who are in sales who only do SaaS. You'll find people in sales who only do retail. You'll find, you know, all of that kind of specialized expertise, it's out there. And then we're very flexible with time and scope. So we can pivot up and down. The one thing that's really good about a fractional executive is we get your business. We get your business problems, challenges, and financial status. So we know that you need us, and if we have an assignment for 2 days a week, but your business takes a bit of a hit with the economy, or you lose a client and you need some time, we can scale down and we can scale up. That becomes much more harder in contracts, freelancers, and so on, but it's much more flexible with a fractional executive. So moving on to some best practices, how do you find that executive? How do you find the one that fits for you? So the first rule of thumb, and this is very particular and very important for anyone in states like California, is to only source fractionals who have a formed business entity. There have been many, many changes in the government relating to contractors and full-time classification. And if you hire an individual who does not have an entity, it's a very fine line if you have someone employed regularly each week between employee and contractor. So it's a risk if you don't do that. Opt for fractionals who offer packages. So typically a fractional who has a package versus hourly rates indicates that they actually know what they're doing, they have a solution, there is something out of the box, and then there's flexibility, but they've almost always got a proven process behind that. Only source fractionals who have a website. Because if you cannot, just like you would hire a vendor, if you cannot validate the site, validate the person on LinkedIn, they may be an individual suggesting they're a fractional executive, but you have to validate that just for your own safety. I also recommend that you look at LinkedIn and other professional groups and follower accounts. A large following can also indicate that large network, and that gives you peace of mind that they are coming with a network of resources. Some other best practices are, when you look at their profile, look and see if they're on any advisory boards or on any boards, because that's going to tell you that other companies trust them to advise their business. And that gives you a little bit of the insight into maybe also what that person has some special skills in, because it may not come through as just a fractional. They usually offer retainer-based packages. So C-suite executives typically have retainers that are paid in advance. And that's because you have negotiated the work that needs to be done, the types of challenges, and it's also to manage costs. What you will find with contractors, freelancers, and consultants is there's usually one cost, and then sometimes halfway through there's an extra cost, a change order or something like that. Fractionals don't get into that. C-suite fractionals they know their cost, they know their time. You're booking a slot of time for them to work dedicated on your business. It's a fixed price and it's agreed. So you can budget for it. You should always ask if the fractional comes with a process and a tool set. So if they don't, that's a red flag, because you really want all of your deliverables, processes handed over to you, because fractionals are not necessarily in your business for years. It could be months, it can be years, but it's usually 18 months, 24 months to launch a product or something similar. But you really want all of that documented, all of that delivered, in order that when they move out, your team can run the strategy. The last way to search too is to look for an experienced fractional who can scale down into an advisor role. So that's where you strike the gold, because you have had your fractional, you've got all the processes, all the deliverables, you now have your team set, but you still can't manage the team, or you don't necessarily want to get into like managing all these people individually. So this fractional can lead them and teach whomever it is you are choosing to be the successor to hand over everything and then leave gracefully. And then what that ends up being is an amazing reference and recommendation to another founder in the future. And that's the best way to hand off. So a little bit of the inside magic. What does it cost and what should you expect? And so many people will not share this. I am Scottish, I am honest, I put it out there. So I thought you guys would like to see this. These ranges are common ranges for 3 types of services. Now, what I would say is, depending on the role, the duration and the complexity, they flex within these range. And this is an honest range from people who are my fractional networks partners, and obviously my own rates in here as well. So these are the ranges. So what I tend to see is the lower end of the range tends to be UK, European type rates. Somewhere in the middle tends to be US, and the end tends to be really complex asks. So that could be an example of the higher end range that I've seen have been tied mostly to my CRO partners, because they are responsible for generating sales, and they often get commission as well. And that's where it rolls up to a little bit higher cost. They also may have to do some extensive client outreach and go find clients. So they tend to might have a little bit more. The other area I've seen the higher end is technology. Sometimes the CTOs have to do a lot more work, and they may be developers themselves, so they may have to do some of that work. But this is a general range that if you're in the sort of low to mid range of this, that's probably a fairly good standard basis to think about budgets and planning. So how do I do it? Where do I find these people? Well, there's lots of places you can find these people, but the first thing you need to align on is your budget. You know, where do you want to go? What's your budget? Just like any role. You also need to specifically decide on the role that you need. Do you need sales, marketing, technology, whatever the roles may be? And then identify, do you want a multi-fractional or a single fractional? That's really important, because that can change your budget a little bit too. Consult with your incubator team. Call Kiara, call Cheryl, call your investors. Do they know people that have done this with others? Many, many investors and incubators know who the fractionals are. Talk to your peers, talk to your friends who are also co-founders. So you're looking for that trusted partner network. The other thing you can do is you can reach a fractional leader, and then someone like myself, you can reach out and say, hey, I'm looking for a salesperson. I don't need you, but can you give me a recommendation? And we are really good at saying, well, tell me what it is, and then we will give you 2 or 3 choices so that you can interview them. So we're really good at sharing good people. There are also fractional executive agencies. So what they do is slightly different. They have a set group of people, and they have specialists in certain areas. So you can go to an agency and they will give you one of their team. They will have a process and tools that's fixed to that agency, but likely can also help your business. And then you can also post on professional and executive job channels. So we all track these. All the fractionals track these. The upside of this is everybody will see it. The downside is you may get a lot of applications to filter through that may not be as qualified as what you're looking for. But it's always worth posting it because we do track it. So preparing for your call. So what do I need to do before and during the call with the fractional? How do I assess if this person's good? So the fractional will always set up a discovery call with you. It should not be more than 30 minutes. And that's really just to get to know you and you to get to know them. So answer your triage questions honestly, but if you have proprietary technology, do ask for an NDA because you don't want people going out and sharing that. So do protect your IP. Prepare your questions ahead. Check out their LinkedIn profile, check out their website. Ask them about things that you see there and ask for examples of what they're doing for their clients now, types of wins, and so on. Chat with them. Get your personality fit. Get to know them, have some fun. We are serious, but we actually do enjoy what we do tremendously. So we do have a lot of fun with it. So ask them, get to know them. Then align on the services that you need. They will tell you what they offer and you guys align just like you would align if you were having a coffee or with your friends or with a vendor. Get into the weeds and say, this is what I'm looking for. If you are interested, ask them to send you a quote. If you are not, don't waste your time or their time because they are paid executives and they do appreciate the feedback. It's not you, it's me kind of thing. But if you don't feel that a fit, just say, look, I don't feel like we have a good fit. Do you have someone else in your network that can help me? And almost all fractionals will have that answer as yes. And they may also have drawn the same conclusion that you're not a great fit. And if they say to you, I am not a great fit, it's okay, don't be upset. It just means that they have something else coming to say, I actually know someone who's perfect for you. And you will get the referral to someone who may be a real specialist in, call it biomedical or manufacturing. We all have different specialties. So we do know who our cohorts are. So that may happen. If you have requested a quote, the next thing to do is chat with your team internally. Because as you can imagine, bringing in an executive to your team can be really scary. So this is the time to say, hey, I'm looking at getting some extra help. I'm looking at a fractional executive. I wanted to let you guys know that I'm in the process of choosing someone. That's good enough. Sometimes, and I've done it personally, I have met the leadership team before I've joined just to get to know them and hear what their opportunity areas are so that we can start off on a good foot. So many people will offer that, some don't, but that's also a good thing to ask if your fractional is open to meeting your leadership team if you feel there could be resistance. So once you actually get the quote, you're going to review your quote and make sure you have packages. So make sure there's no upcharges, there's no, oh, and by the way, there's this and that, there'll be normal things like travel, but it shouldn't have things like, and it's time and a half for. So just based on what we talked about before, make sure your packages are aligned and they fit with your budget. This is the time if they don't, if it's a little over, or even if it's a little under, double check it, be honest and say, oh, I think you're a little low. Did you include this? Or, you're 10% too high. Can we work it out? Have the conversation if you're having difficulty and your budget doesn't work. Many people will work on that with you. Validate that they understand the opportunity. So it should be documented in the quote, but ask them when you're reviewing the quote to relay back what they plan on doing for you, just to make sure they've got it. Confirm the description of the services that they have committed to, meet your goals, just double check and say, yep, by doing this, I get this. Triple check your timeline and deliverables. Make sure that the commitment is aligned between you in order that you can also communicate that to your leadership. When you're happy, you sign the quote, you execute the full contract with the business entity, and then you submit your retainer. And congratulations, you just hired yourself a fractional executive. So you can let the success begin at that point. Questions from anyone? I'd love to take them.
Amazing job. Really great job. I have one irrelevant comment and then one question. My irrelevant comment is, your voice is so soothing. I felt like immediately I was at the coffee shop amongst rolling hills and a light breeze.
Thank you so much.
That was amazing. Probably the best hour of my day. Including the time I was sleeping. That was awesome.
Thank you.
So, and very informative. I can't wait to post this on YouTube just for other people to see as well. But that was really awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so my question is, I really just want to hear some stories. What would you say is twofold question. So what would you say is the best time for startups to potentially bring on a fractional executive? Is it when do you have like a revenue mark, maybe or have they, raised a certain amount? What would you say?
I think it differs depending on the industry and the CEO's desire for support. So many fractionals work for 0 startups up to their first million. Most fractionals wait till there's some form of revenue. And in a very candid way, there are no fractionals on the market that want to put a business in jeopardy of not being able to pay their bills by paying a fractional. So typically we ask that there is some kind of revenue. Now that does not mean that your business is profitable. That could still mean that your business is in the negative, but that you are trending to profit over the next year and you need help, that is okay. There are some fractionals who start at a certain revenue value and particularly like businesses of a certain value. That minimum value usually sits at sort of 1 to 2 million. Others are 10 to 15 million, trying to get to 100 million. So that's the starting point. What I would also say is fractionals also usually exit at stage D of the round. They don't usually stay beyond that sort of 100 million mark, because at that point you really should have your C-suite in place because you're big enough. So if you do have someone through multiple layers, they will phase out at different times. So you can have an early phase in, medium or late phase in, but you always have a D phase out.
So, perfect answer. What would you say is a good preparation for a startup? Should they have training materials in place before maybe bringing on someone? Should they have just their own general processes and procedures already established before they bring on a fractional executive? Or Is that something that you guys really partner with them with, and they maybe don't need to do so much prep work?
Yeah, I think prep work, again, it varies on the industry. Generally speaking, you should have a product or a service established. You should know what that is. We are not necessarily going to be able to create your product or service for you. That's not really the goal of a fractional. The fractional is more to help you get the revenue and grow your business. So you should always have your product ready to go to market, ideally some kind of go-to-market strategy. It doesn't have to be perfect, but have an idea. Or your product's coming, it's in development stage, and maybe you're waiting on some licensing or something, but essentially it's made and you're going to market for the first time. And for services, you need to know what your services are and you want to package them. That's kind of the earliest, but an idea doesn't get you a fractional unless it's an advisor for a board or something like that. That's the only time, if there's nothing in existence, that a fractional will engage, and they sometimes go on the advisory boards or the boards to bring the product to market. That's the only variance.
You have questions, Sharon?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. The presentation was phenomenal. I don't think I've ever seen it outlined so succinctly. So thank you for that. It just really put it all in place. So I know the answer to some of these questions, but I'd love to get your perspective. The first question is, can you elaborate a little bit on the importance of culture fit versus capabilities of the fractional executive? I feel like I know the answer, but I'd love to hear your perspective.
I actually think the culture fit is more important than the capabilities, and I'm sure that's what you're nodding to as well. If you don't gel with the fractional in those initial meetings, it is a no. Do not be scared to walk away. You need someone who believes in you, in your company, who will help drive the culture that you want. Most of my companies, I'm very proud to say, are very focused on DEI and improving women's lives and, all of the genders and age ranges and body types. And that is something that was very specific to me in forming this company. And I've had the distinct privilege to influence those strategies and help build them out in companies such as Ralph Lauren in the past. And that was important to me. So I seek companies with open DEI strategies and inclusion programs to make sure that those are a good cultural fit for me. It is so important because you can be capable all day of doing the task, but the leaders will not get behind you if you don't believe in the whole culture and you are not sponsoring positive improvement in the company. And that's what we are tasked with as leaders in the C-suite. And it's a really humbling experience and one we don't take lightly.
Thank you for that. I think it's something that has risen to the top over the years, right? Because there's so much time and effort put in. And my father used to say, you can't teach people desire. I feel like that flows into it. So thank you.
Really, yes. You're on mute, Kiara. We missed you.
Sorry. Yeah, you said you had a couple of questions, Cheryl.
No, I have a second question. It's a little rudimentary, but I'm going to ask it because there may be people out here that really need to know. I had a discussion maybe a few years ago with someone around whether fractionals and or any of the categories you outlined, right? Contractors, freelancers. Yeah. The question is around how much training should there be, and it could be related to each category, versus kind of capabilities on demand. So
Great question. That is the best question I've had in the presentations that I've done in the last 6 months. Thank you so much for that, Cheryl. The great news is for a fractional at C-suite, there should be little to no training. They are actually bringing way more than you could imagine to your company. And if you think about the fractional you're going to hire who is a C-suite executive, they have mostly come from large startups to very large enterprises. So they are bringing a wealth of knowledge to your team that your team may not have. So they don't need a lot of training. In fact, they're probably going to do a lot of training. Now, I would say in the other role of consultant, you get some of that too, because you're choosing consultants of a specialty area. So they're also going to come. So if you think of a big McKinsey and you want them to assess an HR program, they bring their HR experts. So you're not training them anything. When you get into freelancer and contractor, that's where the training really becomes a big difference, because you have to train them on the task, the project, and that becomes a bit of a burden on your team to train them and ramp them up, manage them, manage their timesheets, all of those types of things, and that becomes an administration issue. But the higher you go in the rank, the less training you need is the general assumption.
Thank you. That's excellent. I love the way you were able to break down the categories. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Are there any other questions from the people online?
I am looking. I don't see any. But I think, unless I hope I'm not missing, I'm looking through the thread. But I do think that it'd be helpful to maybe hear some practical stories. If you have maybe some things that you've been brought on, you've been brought on for solving a particular issue, or maybe reaching a milestone. Do you have any stories that would really highlight things that you implemented, or just how you went about things? I think that would be really helpful.
Yes, let me share a story. Yes, I'd be happy to. I'm gonna share a story. I'm actually going to share two stories. One is a company who reached out to me to look to hiring me as a fractional CMO. And also because I had a network of people that were really interesting to this company. And the lady was amazing, and we connected from a cultural standpoint, and she told me all about her business. And I told her, you know what? Right now, I am not the right fit for you, but in a few more months, when you have some more clients and revenue, let's chat. But what you need right now is a salesperson. I would like to recommend someone. And I was able to do that on the phone. I was able to recommend a CRO who is now a proud part of her team. And she very graciously reached out and said, I've just hired him. I am so happy. And I look forward to bringing you onto the team soon when he gets some sales. And that is a really good, in my perspective, result, because I've helped someone, and I just believe in helping others. If I put it out there, it comes back, and I do believe in that. So that was a good example. I have another client who needed help with putting together a deck for funding, and they said, look, we can't do this right now. We don't have a lot of money. So I was able to reach into my network and find a lady who'd been published on the Business Journal for this specific area, who lived locally, and produced them a pitch deck. And they have now secured the funding and are launching a product, I think, in about a month from now. So some small things can be really quick wins for people, but that's really, it's so much easier to reach out to a fractional and say, can you do it? Because we have that network of resources versus trying to put some sort of RFP out online or start Googling, you know, where do I get a pitch deck written, or, you know, all of that stuff. And obviously, you know, this is a live event, so I cannot share current client wins, but there are many, and they are fun, and you will see them post on my LinkedIn as they go to market soon. So stay tuned.
Awesome. I do see a question that's actually from our teammate, Kelly. Kelly, hey girl. So, she actually has a question. She says, what has been your favorite fractional position?
That's a great question. I think my favorite fractional position that I have been doing recently is the COO for a women's shoe manufacturer who have made revolutionary shoes that we can wear for 20 hours with no blisters, no bumps, and they are heels and they are cute. And they are amazing products, cute boxes, cute shoes. That is absolutely hands down the best opportunity. And I'm thoroughly enjoying working with that client. The founder is amazing and the product is amazing, and it's a luxury product and beautiful. And that's just so much fun, and taking that from all concepts of operations, from sales to marketing to outreach to supply chain, inventory management, you name it, we've covered it, and it is amazing.
Shameless plug, you can tell us.
Shameless plug. Yes, the company's name, and you should buy the shoes, is called Getaway Sticks.
Ooh, cute. I love it. So it seems that you came in with, prior to go to market for them, what are some tactics that you, and please don't give away the tactics that you use for them in particular, but
yeah,
tactics that you use when someone's headed that way.
Yeah, someone new. So essentially what I do in my process is I do an audit first. And that audit is a short-term, roughly 1 month engagement where I can dig in on the company and understand what the goals are, where the opportunities are. And that immediately helps me figure out, oh, what kind of resources do we need? Where do we need help? You know, do you have this? Do you have that? And I ask a lot of questions. So I have a process. I also use a tool called Monday.com, which is a project management tool, as everyone knows. And I actually have all of this documented. So I walk the clients through this. I also offer a team skills matrix where we can track and assess the team skills. And that helps me and the owners understand where are the strengths and what should we be focusing people's roles on, because they are awesome at this and they don't like doing that. So let's just reevaluate that and kind of help with the team. And I also look at their go-to-market strategy, and if they don't have one, I will build them one. So I can actually help them with a 10-point strategy, which I have as a process. Some of my clients need a foundational sales strategy because sales and marketing go hand in hand. So I will give them a sales strategy. And then for all of my clients, I have referrals. So it's whether it's a website design company or, you know, a freelance writer or a copywriter or, you know, whatever it may be, salesperson, CTO, CRO. So I also deliver as part of that audit some referrals to people in my network that can help them move on. And at the end of the audit, if they want me to help them in a specific area, we can work on that. And if they don't have the funds yet, which can often be the case, then we'll set a timeline to say, okay, you go do 1, 2, and 3 and spend your dollars here, because right now I don't want you to pay me, because I don't want you to be worrying about not paying someone else. So wait till you've got the money. But here are the things, and we work on an opportunities list as a deliverable, which says, here are your top priorities, and this is where you should spend your money. And then at the point in time where they need more help to blow out their operational strategy, their marketing strategy, and partner with other fractionals to build it together, that's when I often come back in. On the other side of that, if I'm in an engaged partnership with a client and the engagement's coming to the end, I scale down into an advisor, keep pulsing with the team until I have that sense of, yep, they've got it. And then I slide out and on to the next client. And I have a team of people in my company who also do supporting roles, who can also do some of the ongoing advisory, some of the ongoing tracking, reporting, et cetera, to keep the team moving. And then I also have a few partners who come through my company as well, who are equally operational, marketing, sales, and we distribute the work that way.
I love every part of that. I really love the team matrix. I think just, whatever stage they're at, many people get very far in their business and they don't know how to. That's why we have such a large issue with employee retention, because people aren't doing things that they feel passionate enough about.
Yeah.
And they just find places where they can. So they leave. I love that so much, especially because I love startups and I feel we're innovative. So we should be innovative in something that counts, which is making people happy.
Yes.
I love that. Cheryl, did you have something?
Yeah, that's a lead into another question I'd love to gain perspective on. In terms of, tests. So we've got Colby and all of the testing platforms out here. Is there a sense that you can leverage those without, again, giving away IP? Is there a sense that you're able to leverage those to get to that objective, where I call it like talent loading, and you're having the right people doing the right things at the right time?
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly, there's a lot of them out there. There's so many at this point. You can leverage them. I think it depends on the questions that's in them and whether they are bulk questions or specific questions to the company, how beneficial they are. So there are a lot of, I would call the standard sort of personality tests. My jury's out on how beneficial they really are, because it can be off-putting to a potential employee to do something like that. That is not part of my team skills matrix. So my team skills matrix is specifically skills for the job, but then your interest on the skills. And that's not an IP. It is a scoring system, but it's based on what the manager believes the person can do and what the person self says they can do. So I combine them both. And what it does for our HR partners is it actually gives them training opportunities, group training, because everybody's aligned on what the person can do. But what it also does is it uncovers the magic in the people. So what I'm looking for is the secret magic of, hey, Hazel's got skill 1, 2, and 3, but did you know Hazel's also into NFTs and crypto? And she's got this whole other side of her that she can work on the Web3 space. I'm pulling out those skills that people don't know that their teams have, because if you think about, you hire someone, you recruit someone, you work with them for 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, they're probably growing more skills outside of just that job. And unless you're chatting with them regularly as a manager, you don't know this. So this is an opportunity for them to showcase other skills And then as you think about where is your product or your service going, or you're going to grow a department or launch a new area of the business, you may have people sitting right there with skills that you would not have considered. So this is a smart way to sort of tell you who your people are and give them the opportunity annually to update you on the cool things they're doing so that they can be well positioned internally for promotions, for moving jobs. And we stop losing people because we're actually investing in them and we're hearing what they're offering versus assuming that we know just by the day-to-day. And so many people and managers don't really understand the breadth of the skill set of their team, and they focus on one-dimensional, you're not doing this or you're not doing that, and then the relationship breaks down and they don't realize the whole other magic behind it. So this matrix is a way to show that to the CEOs and let them see what real talent they have. And then the HR team can work on it to make sure that people can level up, and it gives them training, and it really builds the team structure. And the managers who do it love it because they start to learn about their team. So it's the CEO learns about the leadership team learns about the management team, it goes on and on and on. And then people just learn about each other. And what a great way to do it, for someone to just say, oh, I'll tell you what I'm doing. It's just such an awesome tool.
That is an amazing tool that needs to be digitized. I have another company called Circle View, and I'm going to talk to you about it because
okay.
Yeah, you should definitely, that could be a startup in itself. That would be awesome.
Great idea. We'll chat.
Yeah. So did you have anything else, Cheryl? We're running into the end of the hour, but love to know if
it's been a phenomenal discussion. Thank you so much. It's just been a breath of like insightful, valuable information that I'm hoping everyone can take forward. So thank you. And it's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. It's entirely my pleasure to share. This has been amazing. Thank you for some great questions. And I look forward to hearing from you all, and feel free to reach out.
Definitely, I want you to leave everyone with the best ways that they can reach out to you if they need something. Even if they don't need your services, you are a great person. Your services, you are a great person.
I'm happy to direct them in any direction. I'm also happy to partner. If there's any partners potentially that would like to join my network and be considered my clients, I'd love people to connect with me on LinkedIn. It was on the last slide, and I will flash it up really quick here. Here are my details, email and LinkedIn. And if you scan the QR code, it will take you to my website, and you can find all my details there as well.
Beautiful. Everyone, reach out to Hazel. Make sure that you connect with her and just make friends because she's awesome. And if you need her services, she's got my recommendation, so go for it.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Just one more thing. Make certain that you guys, again, jump on the contest, enter your startup if you are an AI startup, and join us next week. I had to make sure I said that. Okay, guys. Thanks a bunch. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.